Hi there. Today I want to talk about being a chain breaker or a culture and tradition changer. What that means is we want to reevaluate our culture, our traditions, and realign ourselves even better with the gospel of Jesus Christ, okay? We want to throw out what's unsupportive and adopt more of what is supportive so that we can create more happiness. That's basically it. I've spent 2 decades learning how to heal myself on the mind, body, and spirit level, and I've learned about behavior change and more about connecting to God. So I created a course called Energy Balancing with Faith, and I shared it with my friends. It's fantastic because we learn how to identify our thoughts and beliefs in the subconscious that actually creates the feelings that drive action, which is the behaviors, right? And then the actions create the results of our lives. So if we don't have ideal results, we want to backtrack and look at the behaviors and then backtrack again, look at the feelings or emotions that drove those actions, and then find out what the thoughts and beliefs are on the subconscious level that is creating all of that, the programming, the conditioning, right? So that's really effective. And I keep thinking to myself, is there more? And recently I've felt the inspiration to dig deeper, and there is more. So I'm really excited to share with you what that really is. Basically, what our beliefs and thinking or thought patterns are nestled in is culture, okay, and traditions. Okay, we don't question, we think in certain patterns and we behave and believe in certain patterns. So in order to heal even faster, we need to identify the cultures and beliefs or cultures and traditions that are not in alignment, okay? Because then we kind of nip it in the bud right there at the core. All right, so there is this culture that I invite you to get rid of, okay? And it's not that we did bad, okay? It's just part of our development. We have matured and graduated from it. Okay, just like a little child, when they were little, they needed a little bit of instructions, okay? They need some rules, and then the rules come with what? Punishment and rewards, right? But when they grow up, it changes. And that's where we are now. We need the newer culture, okay? So I've been studying the Old Testament this year, and so their stories are fresh in my mind. And I keep thinking about Moses and the 40,000 Israelites in Egypt, right? And these people were given this lesser law to help them, okay, because they were spiritually immature. All right, they didn't learn how to own their power to choose because they were in bondage. Understandable. But nowadays, going back, Jesus, when he came to earth, right, he introduced that higher law. And what is that higher law? It's love one another, it's serving one another. Because in the celestial realm of heaven, we are loving each other. That's Zion, okay? So if we can practice that now, we'll be more comfortable being in that state, okay? Now, this rule, punishment, and reward culture is actually very damaging. It has destroyed a lot of family because we really didn't understand the bigger picture, the spirit of it. Okay, so I feel like it's very urgent that we change this culture. I have a list here of the reasons why we need to change it. So I'm going to read it out to you, okay? So basically, we're getting rid of the structure of the beliefs and the thoughts that keep producing these negative feelings and behaviors, okay? So that we can adopt something better. Okay, so the first one is the rules, punishment, and reward culture. It makes us focus on memorizing the list of do's and don'ts, okay? And when we do that, we're not over here creating something great, right? We're focusing on our fears of doing it right and not doing it wrong, to the point where people tell me that they fear offending God. Now, when I hear that, I think it just doesn't feel right, because God is not this quick to anger person. He's not this vengeful and mean guy. He's loving and he's merciful and he's full of grace and he's slow to anger. So we as humans can't possibly have the power to trigger, offense and anger in him every time we mess up. If you're a parent and you watch your children mess up, they fall over, they'll paint the walls or whatever, they mess things up, and does every single mistake they make offend you? No, you have love for your children and you're like, okay, don't do that again, try this. Okay. And for those parents who are stuck in this culture, they need to look for punishment. You do that and let's find a punishment, because they're afraid if they don't punish, then they'll let it go and this child won't be trusted and will, mess up some more. Okay. And all of that is fear energy, and fear is not faith. All right. So rest assured. Okay. God is very loving. Number 2 is this culture. It requires us to need this extrinsic reward. I checked the boxes, I did good, where is my reward? And when we don't get the reward we want, what happens? We get angry, okay? We get resentful and we're like, this gospel doesn't work. I'm out of here, right? How many people do you know that have left, decided, no, God's not my thing, right? Because they want this reward, because we have this structure we're living in. We need to break out from that structure. Number 3, this makes people operate in fear of punishment. I'm going to do this so that I don't get punished, okay? So we're not in this happy mode. We're in this survival mode. That's stressful, okay? That's not peace, right? And people can't get out of it, because as soon as they release and clear, I'm fine, they go right back, because they're still operating in this culture, okay? So let's get out of there once and for all. This culture also creates separation, judgment, and intolerant behavior. It's them and us. Oh, you're not checking the boxes, therefore that's bad. And oh, you're good because you're checking the boxes. All right, we don't take into account where people came from, what their life situation is, and how much they've grown, right? What if they had a poor start and here we have an advantage start? How do we judge? It makes people so intolerant, all right? And here we're asked to love one another, and it's really hard because they're like wanting to do that, but they're very judgmental, okay? And they're intolerant, and let's change that one, okay? Now, number 5, this culture drives people to be withdrawn and antisocial. Why? Because if they're out there and if their mistakes are seen, then they're vulnerable and then they'll get punished, okay? With ridicule and criticism, whatnot, all right? It's not safe. And so people get more and more and more withdrawn. But hang on, the celestial kingdom, the paradise, heaven, is where we are one and we're social and we're together and we serve one another. That's the complete opposite, right? That's why it's not working anymore, okay? So we don't see others as us when we're in this culture, all right? Number 7 is this great need for punishment. We need to have pain and discomfort for some reason, because for every rule violation, we just feel like we need to follow that. And so you messed up, give me your phone, child. You're in timeout, and why? And sometimes the punishment doesn't even match the actions, but we need to do it anyways. Look, when you mess up, the natural consequence is sufficient punishment. For example, if you touch fire, you get burnt. You don't need to poke at it some more and do a big tongue lashing. The pain is sufficient for learning. Okay, enough. All right. In the Old Testament this year, I learned that, hang on, God is slow to anger. He's like, please, 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 I'll send, the prophets, and then warn, tell. And here are the natural consequences if you mess up, you keep messing up. All right, here are the natural consequences. He doesn't want to punish us because he feels like, we, just are awful people. It's for love. It's to compel us to change. And when we change, that's fine, it's great. So the goal is change. Okay, so the purpose of punishment is to help us remember to be humble and change. So that's why us humans, when we execute punishment, sometimes we don't realize why, we just do it. And it makes things worse. It makes children more insecure. It makes adults more withdrawn. Okay, it makes us not receive love. And it creates a whole slew of health problems. Unnecessary. Okay, very, very damaging. So, number 8, it creates the unnecessary excessive guilt with the slightest failures and mistakes. So sometimes if you're a perfectionist, right, and you don't do it just as good as you'd like, you feel bad. You feel bad because it's a natural reaction. Because if you mess up and fail, there's this punishment that has to happen all the time. Really? Can we just erase it and try again? Right? Because that's not the end goal, is not to have flawlessness. Right? The end goal is to be better and progression. Yeah? All right. So get rid of that need to execute punishment and be guilty, and look for, what am I not doing right? I could have done better. This hypervigilance. Okay. Now, 9, it creates shame and insecurity. Yeah. So it leads people to this power struggle because they don't want to feel that shame anymore. They don't want to be shamed. And it causes people, especially children, to rebel. I see a lot of adults unintentionally driving their kids to rebellion. Not necessary. If you think of this pain enough, I hope that it compels you to want to change and throw out this culture, because this culture doesn't work. It's pushing our kids away. Okay, we need to show understanding and love and teach them the higher law. Number 10, it requires people to desire approval and validation from others. Okay, so we're taught to serve God and not serve, 2 masters or more. But here we are, this culture drives us to serving multiple masters. All right, we want to make sure that everyone's happy with us. Okay, so no one's mad, and want to make sure that we're accepted from the world. All right, we need to just check in with God only. Okay, so that leads to the next one, which is comparison and competition. So in order to measure how well you're doing, you need to be competitive or comparing, and am I good enough? So constantly you're listening and doing things your way, instead of checking in with God and saying, is this my path? Is that what I need to do? If so, yes, I'll just do it. Okay, so imagine if Joan of Arc, she's like, well, am I the right kind of girl? Am I riding the horse as well as everyone else? Or, God wants me to save France, but I don't know, because Mary Sue over there is not saving France. Really? Okay, that's silly, but we do that a lot. Okay, we worry about what people think. If you're honest with yourself in your mind, you're worried about what people think a lot, right? So let's throw that out. All right, just do what you feel happy, what God has confirmed that is right for you. He is the author of right, because the society, it doesn't determine what you need to do. It doesn't determine your what is the definition of right, for you. Okay. So it leads me to the next one. It drives people to conformity and losing their own identity. So when you don't know who you are, what do? You conform. So the world tells you how to be happy. You're supposed to wear these nice clothes, be splashing in the swimming pool in Malibu or whatever, you know, in the commercials, right? Taking pictures with Mickey Mouse at the theme park or whatever. The world tells you that's fun. And you're like, yeah, okay, that's fun. But really, do you really like that? Do you really like those clothes? Or do you really like those people? Do you really like those shallow conversations? Or do you want to get into a deeper, more meaningful conversation and a deeper connection with God? All right, the world tells you how beauty looks. And if you don't look that certain way, shape, or size, then you're not beautiful. Really? Okay, very exhausting. So nobody really can have this happiness because the social expectations and trends change so much. Number 13, conditional love and acceptance. That culture, it creates the conditional love. So if you're not checking all of the do's and not doing the don'ts, then, you know, you're not accepted. You're out, right? There is a natural I guess separation anyways, there is with people, but we don't have to add to it, okay? Number 14, earning heaven mentality. So because it's, you know, your works, right? What you do and what you don't do, it's very easy to stay in the mindset of earning heaven. But in reality, Jesus Christ died for everyone. Salvation is free. And what we're trying to do is feel comfortable in the celestial world where there's light, glory, and people are empowered, knowing how to use their agency to create, to choose, to change. Okay? But here we're not focusing on that. We're just trying to survive, holding our breath, you know, trying not to be punished. Okay? So, you know, when you talk about earning heaven, it doesn't make sense because if you had a child that died early, you know, 8, 9, 10, that child only had a few years to earn heaven. Huh? You know, how is he gonna make it? You know? So, you know, in the scriptures it talks about, you know, how we can labor all our life and still be unprofitable servants. You know, because he gives us so much. He offers us so much. Okay, so what we're doing is not really earning heaven. It doesn't pay for heaven. We're just practicing. It's like your children. They don't earn the food that you feed them every day. You just want them to be happy. You want them to progress and be happy and better, right? Same with God. Okay. So number 15 is the myopic perspective of life. So all of this keeps us having to have this short-sightedness, okay? Because we just don't want to be punished and shamed and all of these things. It's scary, all right? We stay in this fear. Of course, we're not going to see beyond, okay? It keeps us myopic. So those are the reasons why it's bad and we need to change it. And why we don't change it is sometimes humans, they apply and assign human behavior to God, okay? So, you know, it's kind of insulting to God, right? Like, oh, he's just angry, he's just mean and stuff. But we read that he's not. And if you've checked in with him, if you talk to him, he's not, okay? So let's not apply the human behaviors and cultures to God, okay? His ways are higher than our way. What we want to do is create a new pattern. And the new pattern is to adopt the principles, purpose, and progression culture. Principles, progression, you know, or purpose, whichever way you want to say it. Okay, I like the alliteration. It helps me remember better. Principles. We teach principles and let them govern themselves. Okay, we have purpose. We know where we're going. Teach them, tell them all. Tell everyone where they are going. Okay, and we're happy with progression. Okay, because we can't hit the mark yet. We're always going to progress and change. All right, so I have 13 points here. Bear with me. Why we should adopt this. The first one is if we can focus on the fundamental principles and end purpose and progression, we will have more meaning. for our life. Everything you do will have meaning. And if it doesn't have that meaning, then toss it out, okay? You can thrive when your life has meaning. I tell my kids, why do you go to school? You know, the typical answer might be for other people, like, oh, so I can get a degree, so I can get a job. But my kids will tell you the glory of God is intelligence, okay? So we want to be intelligent like Heavenly Father. Okay, yes, we'll get jobs and things like that. But the most important thing why we go to school is so that we can be like God. And so they study more than what is required in school. They understand at a spiritual level, and then they toss out stuff that doesn't align with their life's end goal, okay? You see, I don't have to check the homework. I don't have to check the grades. They will, okay? Because they want to make sure that they're progressing. Other principles like, why do we clean the house? Why do we clean your bedroom? Because, you know, God is orderly and cleanliness is next to godliness. All right, we want to feel the Spirit of God. Okay, and that's why we clean. Not because mommy wants it, otherwise mommy will punish us and take our phones away and whatever, right? Very, very, very few rules, if any, that we have in our home. We don't need it because we've taught principles successfully. Maybe when they were younger, we had a couple of rules, okay? But now that they're older, we can see that they understand the principles. Okay, so that goes with all humans, doesn't have to be just children. Okay, if you understand principles, then you'll be able to do what you need to do with meaning. Number 2 is focus on people's highest good. So when you make decisions, you don't do it so that, oh, they don't get mad at me, or that kind of punishment or criticism. You say, what is in their highest interest? Okay, and then when you make decisions, it's a lot wiser. Yeah. Okay, it's for their goal. And sometimes they may not understand you right now. And sometimes, you know, it might be tough love. But at the end of it all, it's for their higher good. So some people, like I've seen, there's a problem and, oh, I'll jump in and fix your problem because I don't want this person to be sad and mad at me. That's kind of like a punishment or a reward thing, right? But instead you're like, hang on, that person has had that problem year after year after year. I'm going to show that person how to fix that problem so that they will benefit in the long run, so they can own their agency and benefit in the long run. You see what I mean? Okay, it's going to take more effort, and it's going to be a struggle because they probably want me to fix it right now, but I'll guide them along, and that'll be for their end good, okay? Number 3, operating in faith and agency. So you're using a lot of faith, you're connecting to God and checking in. Guys, don't get in the way of your kids and God, okay? Don't be the answer, okay? There's already a Savior, and that Savior is Jesus Christ, not you and me, okay? So if they have a problem, teach them to go to God first, okay? And then come and discuss it with you, because you're going to go to God too, okay? And that is faith promoting, and that is using their power to choose God, to change, and to create, okay? Otherwise, we're enabling them, all right? And they're not going to be able to create joy, all right? Number 4, when we choose the principles, our purpose and progression culture, we create more intimacy with other humans. Because guess what? We're going to be together, right? We're going to be together. It gives you more reason to want to have relationships with humans. Be kind and loving. Get to know people. Be a people person. Okay, it gives you so much more reason for that. Then you're tolerant because you're like, I don't know where that person's from. I don't know that person's backstory, right? And yeah, it looks like that person's kind of trying to check those boxes. Doesn't matter. I don't know where they're at. I'm in a different place, but I'm just going to encourage them to the next level, okay? There's no judgment. There's a lot more understanding, okay? So because we understand that, you know, that perfection, be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven, which is perfect. We understand that scripture differently. We understand that it's a perfect union, not flawlessness, okay? Nowhere does it say you're not allowed to make mistakes, okay? That's what the atonement's for, right? To erase those mistakes and help you redo. So oneness is our goal, okay? So get rid of the human definition of that perfection. No prophet in the scriptures have ever been flawless. Okay, even in their weakness, when they can't talk or when they whatever, can't write, when they're with God, one with God, they can move mountains, they can part seas, they can build barges and arcs and whatever. Wow, we too need to learn how to do that. Okay, that's why we need to graduate. We have more power when we are over here changing and progressing and creating. Go to God, merge, be that perfect union with God, and you'll find that all the things you do is so inspired. Okay, it didn't really come from you. Okay, but together, with God, you are more. All right, so that's what we're trying to teach ourselves and others, especially our children. Okay, number 5, it inspires people to connect, be social and community minded. Just like I said earlier, right? We want to have intimacy now. Okay, we're not afraid to have intimacy. Families, husbands, wives want to understand each other at a deeper and deeper level. I'm shocked sometimes when I help people do a session, how people lack that closeness that they can have and have a greater degree of joy. Number 6, it's safe for people to be authentic and accountable. So when people make mistakes and they're not punished, they're just encouraged to try again, then they're free to tell people, yeah, that was my bad. I did this, but now I'm going to do better. Yay, okay? And they're accountable because they're like, yeah, that's me. I did that. But people who don't want to own their mistakes is because they're scared, you guys. They're scared of that punishment, that criticism, because of that old culture, you see? So it's easier to be accountable now when you adopt this new culture. All right. Number 7, it creates safety when we make mistakes and failures. So it kind of goes along with the same idea, okay? So they're free to try again and make mistakes and fail, because it doesn't mean that they're bad, okay? So withholding love is a form of punishment, okay? So, making mistakes is just accelerated learning. Keep making mistakes. Keep trying until you get it. All right? It's okay. Go. All right? Instead of, mistakes, therefore you're bad. And bad means you're not lovable. You're not enough. Oh, okay, that's punishment. All right, number 8, it creates self-awareness and security in divine love. So it helps people ask themselves, who am I? Instead of trying to be conforming to the world. All right, I kind of like this, I don't like that. And when you are self-aware, you can be secure in who you are, because everyone's different. I'm allowed to be different. I'm allowed to be me and unique because God loves me anyways. Okay, so there's that divine love that's settled in my soul that gives me permission to do what I need to do without asking everyone else for that validation. Yeah? Number 9, it helps people focus on being grateful, seeking God's approval and validation. So let me just check in with God to see if I'm a good enough mom right now, because I feel kind of bad. But should I? Let me check. Okay, so you only check with God. You don't need to check with everyone else. Okay, you check with God for everything. How am I doing in this? Tell me what I need to change. Okay, God can tell you. So you don't have to check with 10 people because they'll give you 20 answers, right? So number 10, inspires people to have original thinking and integrity to be their true divine self. It's so true. When you teach yourself and your kids, right, they get to come up with some amazing magical things because they learn how to connect to God. Okay, you too, right? You can come up with original things, okay? Because we're free. We're free to connect to the divine. Because what is it? At the end of our days, celestial kingdom citizens, we know how to connect to each other and to the power of God. Okay, we're one heart, one mind. Okay, and when we're there, we're drawing on the reservoir of light and wisdom. Okay, of the eternities. Okay, so number 11, it creates unconditional love and acceptance. That's all your job is to love God. Okay, be open to His love, and then love others when your heart is full. You know, we don't need to manipulate or need other people to love us back. They'll naturally love us back, most of the people, but we don't hold them responsible. We're not attached to what they do. We are the one that has so much love that we can scatter love and be happy just like that. Okay, imagine other people doing the same. They just have free love to give, and you have free love to give. That is what we want, right? Okay, instead of this judgment and criticism and intolerance. Yeah. So if you want to get rid of intolerance, you do this. You change and move people to a new culture. Yeah. All right. So number 12 is we adopt the learning heaven mentality. So what heaven is this space where people are enlightened. They actually literally have more light in their countenance. Okay, they can master the elements. They can call on the power of heaven. Now, we're here to practice that, okay? So when we get closer and closer, we have more and more light into the perfect day. So when we are there, most people think like you're banging on the gate of heaven, please let me in. But it's going to be the complete opposite. It's going to be heaven saying, please come in. We love you. Please come in. That's what it's going to be like. But because of our, lack of light, or we haven't practiced igniting that divine light within, our darkness is what is going to keep us out. Think of people going to church. You're in church, you're wishing that so-and-so is next to you and near you, and they're not. And you're begging them, please come, please join us, please hang out, please feel this love. And they refuse because they don't have that light. They refuse to switch on that light. That's how it's going to be. And that's why it doesn't make sense to sit there in the darkness and worry about the punishment, because that's not where we're going. Okay, we really need to move over here and learn to ignite the light and connect to God. Right? That's why we really need to move on to this new culture, because that old culture doesn't work. We've graduated, we've matured up, and the world has changed. Get out of that martyr mentality. Okay, move over here to creating life. Live for Christ. You don't need to die for Christ. Live. Right now, he's already died and paid the price. Because of that, number 13 is we can adopt the eternal perspective. Everything we do, we have the eternal perspective. So if you look at what you own, you look at what you've earned, you looked at what you've achieved, does all this matter? Some of it, if it doesn't matter, then don't stress it. Okay? Ask yourself, does it matter in 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, eternities? So if the answer is no, then don't stress it. Oh, that team, it lost. Our team lost. Oh, I'm so stressed. Hang on, it won't matter in the eternities. Forget it. Don't worry about it, okay? Like any little thing you ask that question to, if the answer is no, then don't stress it. The real question is this faith promoting? Can I learn how to love despite what's happening here? Okay, so-and-so is meanie. Can I still love? That is the question, because you can ignite the light within you, the love within you, despite all of the crazies on the outside. That is the true test, okay? Because what are you doing? You're drawing on the power of the atonement of Christ, okay, to have grace and mercy over it all, okay? Because guess what? Grace and mercy cannot be earned, yeah? Now, I just want to share with you those things, and I hope that that makes sense with you. Please join me in the Energy Balancing with Faith course and connect with this community as we help each other adopt this new culture of progression and principles and purpose. I'm really grateful for all of the many blessings that I have been given, the friends that I have in this community, and this opportunity to help each other prepare for the second coming of Christ. So please join our community, and love to love you. Take care. Sending you love, light, and healing. Bye for now.